Hi gaming guys, and welcome to episode 18 of Forget Your Warranty, the review series for Gran Turismo's aftermarket tuner cars. And this particular vehicle is one of the few drift spec aftermarket tuner cars on the game, the BP Falken Mazda Rx-7. This is a slightly older shape drifter and is one of the oldest tuner cars in the game in terms of being pre-tuned. Now, this particular vehicle has been on Gran Turismo for a little while now, and it's a vehicle which is very easy to, like with some others, such as the Blitz Skylines, compartmentalise into one category of use: drifting. And you'd be forgiven for doing that, because after all, that is the car's primary purpose. But does that mean that that's all it's good for, or can it go beyond that? Some other vehicles can do the opposite, of course. Some time attack cars also make good drifters, for instance. So can it work the other way round? Well, I would say yes. In the case of this car, definitely, because the vehicle that you're already working with is a strong performance car. The Mazda Rx-7 is, as I have mentioned on this channel before, one of my favourite Japanese cars in all of its forms. And the FC is no exception. It's a brilliant performance car, due to, in part of course, that rotary engine. It's rated at 1.3 litres, although that's not the exact size, and you can turbocharge that engine up to a very respectable 650 horsepower. Now, for a start, that makes it far more powerful than any of the road-going RX-7s of the FC generation, significantly more powerful, in fact. So does it translate that into performance? Because those RX-7s, especially the premium one, are very good performance cars. Well, I'm happy to say yes, this one does take it even further, because the BP Falken RX-7, as well as being a great drift car, which pretty much goes without saying really, I would say is a really good track car. Especially when you consider that the price on this car is 200 grand. Now, 200 grand is obviously a lot more expensive than, for instance, the normal FC RX-7, but you're paying for so much work that's already been done on the car, so to compare it to a normal RX-7 is only so accurate. The reality is you're getting a very different vehicle. Now, the weight on this car is also very good, which isn't surprising for an RX-7. They do tend to be pretty lightweight. It weighs 1,094 kilos, and that means you're looking at 594 horsepower per tonne and a fully tuned PP of just under 600. It actually sits at 595, which I would say is pretty good, perhaps a little too high, but understandable at the same time. The torque is reasonably good at 481 foot-pounds, though typically rotaries don't tend to need as much torque. Of course, the engine is relatively high revving, but at the same time not necessarily as peaky as you'd expect. Peak power on this car is at 7,600 RPM, and that isn't ridiculously high. You'd probably assume it would be closer to 9 or 10,000. So the power actually comes in a little earlier than you'd assume, and that can be very useful, especially on twistier circuits. Now, as far as straight line performance, this is, unsurprisingly, because I've mentioned this with a lot of these cars, a little bit slower than the normal road-going RX-7 of the FC shape. The top speed does drop on this car compared to that vehicle, due to, in part, the downforce and just the general aerodynamic changes which aren't conducive to those kind of speeds. As a track car, though, purely for cornering and cornering speeds, on technical circuits, city tracks, twisty technical circuits like Ascari or Laguna Seca, it's very good. The handling is smooth, pretty beginner friendly actually, and pretty dependable. I would say that the handling on this car is easily good enough to take on most other aftermarket tuners, even some of the time attack cars like the HKS Evo and the Amuse Carbon R, because one of the strong points about this vehicle is that although the top speed is less than the normal RX-7 of its shape, the acceleration is still easily as good as something like the Carbon R or the HKS Evo for top-end performance in particular, because all of those cars are slower than their road-going counterparts. So overall, although it does have less power than many of those, it can still compete with them very well. The acceleration is good, the handling is excellent I would say, dependent of course on tuning, and as we already said, it goes without saying that it makes a really good drift car. One of the best things about this vehicle is that it's a good all-rounder. It's not the best at any particular thing, but it's good enough at quite a few things, and as a result I would say this vehicle is worth your time. It's not necessarily a car that will blow your mind, but it's a good vehicle, it's underused by many people, especially from a racing point of view, and it is a genuinely good car for the things that it is good at. But overall, that's it for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.